Sarah Mitchell adjusted her camera lens one more time as she watched the couple walk hand in hand along the beach. The morning sun cast long shadows across the sand, and she knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. As Netflix's lead photographer for their upcoming documentary series, she had been following Prince Harry and Meghan Markle for weeks, capturing intimate moments that would later tell their story to millions around the world. The couple moved with an ease that spoke of years spent together, navigating both joy and hardship. Harry's protective arm around Meghan's shoulders seemed natural, almost instinctive, while her gentle smile reflected a contentment that hadn't always been present in earlier photographs. Sarah had been documenting their journey for months now, and these particular shots would become the images that would change how the world saw them. Behind her camera, Sarah had witnessed countless celebrity couples over her 15-year career. She had photographed A-list actors during their most vulnerable moments, captured politicians in unguarded instances, and documented the lives of royalty across different continents. But there was something different about Harry and Meghan. Their connection seemed to transcend the typical celebrity relationship, rooted in something deeper than fame or convenience. The Netflix project had begun 6 months earlier when the streaming giant announced their multi-year partnership with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The company wanted to create content that would showcase their humanitarian work, their family life, and their journey from working royals to independent global citizens. Sarah had been hand-picked for the assignment due to her reputation for creating intimate, authentic imagery that revealed the humanity behind public figures. As she continued shooting, Sarah remembered her first meeting with the couple at their Montecito home. Meghan had answered the door herself, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. There were no assistants hovering, no formal protocol to follow. Harry had appeared moments later, carrying their son Archie on his shoulders while their daughter Lilibet toddled behind them. The scene was so normal, so far removed from the royal imagery the world was accustomed to, that Sarah had almost forgotten she was photographing members of the British royal family. That first day had set the tone for everything that followed. Harry and Meghan had been remarkably open, allowing Sarah unprecedented access to their daily lives. She had captured them working in their home office, reviewing scripts and planning their various projects. She had photographed intimate family dinners, bedtime stories, and quiet moments in their garden. Most importantly, she had documented the small gestures between them that spoke volumes about their relationship. The beach photographs that would later appear in major publications worldwide were taken during what was supposed to be a private family outing. Harry and Meghan had driven to a secluded stretch of coastline with their children, seeking the kind of normalcy that had been rare in their previous life. Sarah had followed at a respectful distance, using a long lens to capture their interactions without intruding on the moment. What struck her most was how they moved together. In the royal family, there had always been protocols about public displays of affection, rules about how couples should present themselves to the world. But, here, away from the constraints of palace life, Harry and Meghan seemed free to simply be themselves. Harry would reach for Meghan's hand without thinking, and she would lean into him naturally, their bodies creating a visual language of comfort and trust. The photographs captured more than just a couple enjoying a day at the beach. They told the story of two people who had found their way back to each other after a period of intense scrutiny and challenge. The past few years had tested their relationship in ways that few couples ever experience. The relentless media attention, the departure from royal duties, the move to a new country, and the process of building a new life from scratch had all taken their toll. Sarah had heard the whispers and read the speculation in the media. There had been stories about tension in their marriage, reports of arguments and disagreements about their future direction. Some publications had suggested that the pressure of their new life in America was driving them apart. Others had questioned whether their relationship could survive outside the structure and support system of the royal family. But what Sarah saw through her lens told a different story entirely. She witnessed a couple who had learned to rely on each other more deeply than ever before. The challenges they had faced hadn't driven them apart, they had forced them to become a stronger team. Harry's protective instincts toward his family had intensified, while Meghan's determination to create positive change had found new channels through their various projects and initiatives. During one particularly revealing moment, Sarah had been photographing them as they worked on preparations for their upcoming Netflix series about mental health awareness. The subject matter was deeply personal for both of them, touching on Harry's own struggles with grief and loss, and Meghan's experiences with mental health challenges during her time as a working royal. As they discussed the project, Sarah captured a moment where Harry reached across the table to squeeze Meghan's hand, a gesture of support that spoke to the depth of their partnership. The photographs that would eventually accompany the Netflix announcement showed a couple who had found their footing in their new life. Gone was the uncertainty that had marked their early days in California. In its place was a sense of purpose and direction that seemed to energize both of them. They were building something together, creating a platform that would allow them to make the kind of impact they had always dreamed of. Meghan's transformation was particularly striking. In the early royal photographs, she had often appeared slightly formal, perhaps trying to fit into a role that didn't quite suit her natural personality. But, in these new images, she seemed completely at ease, her genuine warmth and intelligence shining through without any artificial constraints. Her laughter was unguarded, her expressions authentic, and her connection with Harry appeared effortless. Harry, too, seemed different. The tension that had been visible in his face during his final royal engagements had been replaced by something that could only be described as peace. He moved with the confidence of someone who had made difficult decisions and found them to be right. His protective nature toward his family was still evident, but it no longer seemed desperate or defensive. Instead, it appeared grounded in genuine happiness and security. As Sarah reviewed the images on her camera's display screen, she knew she had captured something special. These weren't just publicity photographs for a streaming service, they were documentation of a love story that had survived extraordinary circumstances. The world had watched Harry and Meghan's relationship unfold in real time, from their fairy tale wedding to their dramatic departure from royal life. Now, these photographs would show the next chapter of their story. The technical aspects of the photographs were flawless. The lighting, composition, and timing had all come together perfectly. But, what made these images truly powerful was the emotion they captured. Years of experience had taught Sarah that the best celebrity photographs weren't about perfect poses or glamorous settings, they were about revealing genuine human moments that allowed viewers to connect with their subjects on a deeper level. The beach setting had provided the perfect backdrop for this kind of authentic imagery. The natural environment seemed to strip away the artifice that often surrounded celebrity photography, leaving just two people in love, enjoying a simple moment together. The contrast with the formal royal portraits that had defined their previous public image was striking and intentional. Sarah had learned that Harry and Meghan were very deliberate about how they presented themselves to the world. They understood the power of imagery and the stories that photographs could tell. These beach photographs weren't accidents, they were part of a carefully crafted narrative about their new life and their strengthened relationship. But, the authenticity of the emotions captured in the images made them powerful regardless of any strategic considerations. As the morning progressed, Sarah continued documenting their time together. She captured them building sandcastles with their children, sharing quiet conversations while walking along the water's edge, and simply sitting together watching the waves. Each image added another layer to the story she was telling through her camera. The children's presence in many of the photographs added another dimension to the narrative. Archie and Lilibet seemed completely comfortable and happy, their natural behavior suggesting a stable, loving family environment. These images would counter any suggestions that the upheaval of their parents' transition had negatively affected the children's well-being. When Netflix eventually released these photographs alongside the announcement of their expanded partnership with Harry and Meghan, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Media outlets around the world picked up the images, using them to illustrate stories about the couple's strengthened bond and successful transition to their new life. The photographs became symbols of resilience, love, and the possibility of creating happiness even after experiencing significant loss and change. For Sarah, these images represented some of her finest work. They had required not just technical skill, but also the ability to gain her subjects' trust and create an environment where authentic emotions could emerge. The success of these photographs would lead to expanded opportunities within the Netflix partnership and establish her as one of the premier documentary photographers working in celebrity culture. But, beyond her professional satisfaction, Sarah felt a genuine happiness for the couple she had been documenting. Through her lens, she had watched them navigate one of the most challenging periods of their lives and emerge stronger than ever. Their love story had captivated the world for years, and these new photographs showed that the best chapters might still be ahead of them. The images that would soon appear in publications around the world told a story of transformation, growth, and enduring love. They showed a couple who had chosen each other not just once, at their wedding, but again and again through every challenge they had faced. In a world often cynical about celebrity relationships, Harry and Meghan's genuine connection offered something rare and precious, proof that true love could survive and thrive even under the most intense scrutiny and pressure. The conference room at Netflix's Los Angeles headquarters buzzed with anticipation as executives gathered around the polished table, laptops open and coffee cups strategically placed. Ted Sarandos, the company's co-CEO, had called this emergency meeting after seeing the initial photographs that would soon reshape public perception of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The images, spread across multiple monitors around the room, told a story that none of them had expected when they first entered into partnership with Harry and Meghan. Bella Bajaria, Netflix's head of global TV, studied the photographs with the keen eye of someone who had built her career on understanding what audiences wanted to see. The images were undeniably powerful, showing a couple who had not only survived the transition from royal life but had thrived in ways that defied the skeptics' predictions. The authenticity captured in each frame was exactly what Netflix needed to validate their substantial investment in the Sussex brand. The partnership with Harry and Meghan had been announced with great fanfare 18 months earlier, but the path to this moment had been far from smooth. Initial projects had faced delays, creative differences had emerged, and there had been intense pressure from both the media and Netflix shareholders to prove that the deal would generate content worthy of the reported $100 million investment. These new photographs, however, suggested that the patience and persistence had been worthwhile. Marcus Williams, Netflix's head of documentary programming, had been working closely with the Sussex team since the beginning of their partnership. He had witnessed firsthand the evolution of Harry and Meghan's comfort level with their new role as content creators. The early meetings had been tentative, with both parties carefully navigating the boundaries between personal privacy and public storytelling. But, as trust had developed, so had the quality and intimacy of the material they were producing together. The photographs that now dominated the conference room screens were just the beginning of what would become Netflix's most ambitious documentary series about modern royalty and personal transformation. The project, tentatively titled Finding Home, would chronicle not just Harry and Meghan's journey from royal duties to independent advocacy, but also the broader themes of identity, purpose, and resilience that resonated far beyond celebrity culture. Dr. Jennifer Chen, Netflix's head of social impact programming, had been particularly invested in the Sussex partnership because of its potential to address serious social issues through the lens of personal experience. Harry's advocacy for mental health awareness, particularly relating to military veterans and childhood trauma, aligned perfectly with Netflix's commitment to programming that could generate meaningful conversations. Meghan's background in women's rights and racial equality offered opportunities to explore these topics through compelling personal narrative rather than traditional documentary approaches. The photographs revealed something that the executives found even more valuable than good publicity. They showed a couple who had successfully reinvented themselves while maintaining their core values and commitments. This transformation narrative was exactly what Netflix believed would resonate with their global audience, many of whom were navigating their own major life changes in an increasingly uncertain world. During the meeting, Sarah Chen, Netflix's chief marketing officer, outlined how these images would be integrated into their broader campaign strategy. The photographs would accompany the announcement of 3 new projects featuring Harry and Meghan, a documentary series about global humanitarian efforts, a children's animated series promoting kindness and environmental awareness, and a podcast series exploring conversations about mental health and personal growth. What made these projects particularly compelling was how they reflected the couple's personal evolution. The Harry and Meghan who had signed the Netflix deal were still finding their footing as independent public figures. The couple revealed in these new photographs appeared confident, purposeful, and genuinely excited about their work. This transformation would become a central theme in their Netflix content, offering audiences an authentic look at the process of rebuilding one's life and identity. The documentary team had been following Harry and Meghan for months, capturing not just the polished public appearances but also the private moments of doubt, discovery, and growth. The photographs being discussed in the conference room were part of this larger documentation project, showing the couple at a moment when they had clearly found their rhythm in their new life. James Rodriguez, the director assigned to the main documentary series, had developed an unusually close working relationship with Harry and Meghan. Unlike many celebrity subjects who maintain strict boundaries between their public and private selves, the Sussex couple had been remarkably open about their struggles and uncertainties. This openness had allowed James to create a narrative that went far beyond typical celebrity documentation. The beach photographs that would soon appear worldwide had been taken during a particularly significant period in the couple's Netflix journey. They were in the final stages of completing their first major documentary project, a film about the Invictus Games that would showcase Harry's continued commitment to supporting wounded veterans. The project had required extensive travel, challenging filming conditions, and deep emotional engagement with subjects whose stories were often difficult to hear. Throughout the production process, James had watched Harry and Meghan's professional partnership evolve. Initially, they had approached their Netflix work as separate individuals with distinct areas of interest and expertise. But, over time, they had developed a collaborative dynamic that enhanced both of their individual contributions. Meghan's background in entertainment and media had proven invaluable in shaping their storytelling approach, while Harry's authentic connection with their subjects had provided emotional depth that elevated their projects above typical celebrity content. The photographs captured this collaborative spirit in visual form. In several images, Harry and Meghan could be seen reviewing materials together, their body language suggesting the kind of professional partnership that extended their personal relationship into their work life. This integration of personal and professional identity had become a hallmark of their approach to their Netflix projects. Anna Foster, Netflix's head of international content, had been monitoring global reaction to early reports about the Sussex projects. The response had been overwhelmingly positive, with particular enthusiasm from younger audiences who saw Harry and Meghan as representatives of a more modern, socially conscious approach to public service. The photographs being discussed in the meeting would likely amplify this positive response, providing visual confirmation of the couple's happiness and stability. The Netflix team had learned that the most effective celebrity partnerships were those where the personal brand aligned naturally with the content being created. Harry and Meghan's commitment to social justice, mental health awareness, and environmental responsibility wasn't just a marketing strategy, it was genuinely central to their personal values and daily lives. This authenticity translated into content that felt meaningful rather than manufactured. The photographs also revealed something that had surprised many Netflix executives: how effectively Harry and Meghan had adapted to working within the entertainment industry. Both had come from backgrounds where their public roles were largely ceremonial or advocacy-based. Transitioning to content creation required different skills, including comfort with the technical aspects of production, ability to work with creative teams, and understanding of audience expectations. The learning curve had been steep, but the photographs suggested that Harry and Meghan had not only mastered these new skills but were genuinely enjoying the creative process. Images of them engaged with filming equipment, reviewing footage, and participating in production meetings showed a level of hands-on involvement that went far beyond typical celebrity endorsement deals. Michael Thompson, Netflix's head of talent relations, had been responsible for managing the day-to-day aspects of the Sussex partnership. He had witnessed the couple's growth from uncertain newcomers to confident content creators. The transformation had required patience from all parties involved, but the results were now clearly visible in both the quality of their work and their personal satisfaction with their new roles. The photographs being analyzed in the conference room represented a turning point not just for Harry and Meghan personally, but for the Netflix partnership as a whole. The images would be used to announce the next phase of their collaboration, which would include expanded creative control for the Sussex team and larger budgets for more ambitious projects. The success of their initial work had proven that their partnership could deliver both critical acclaim and commercial success. The meeting concluded with unanimous agreement that these photographs should be released widely, accompanied by carefully crafted messaging about the couple's successful transition and their exciting upcoming projects. The images would be distributed to major publications worldwide, with exclusive interviews provided to key media partners who could help shape the narrative around the Sussex-Netflix collaboration. As the executives filed out of the conference room, there was a sense of vindication for those who had supported the original partnership decision. The photographs proved that sometimes the biggest risks in entertainment could yield the most rewarding results. Harry and Meghan had not only survived their transition from royal life but had created something entirely new and potentially more impactful than their previous roles had allowed. The images that would soon appear in publications around the world told a story of successful reinvention, but they also hinted at the deeper changes that had made this reinvention possible. The couple in these photographs had clearly learned to balance their public mission with private happiness, their individual identities with their partnership, and their past experiences with their future aspirations. For Netflix, these photographs represented validation of their belief that authentic storytelling could emerge from the most unlikely circumstances. Lady Catherine Pemberton set down her morning tea and studied the newspaper spread across her breakfast table with growing amazement. The photographs of Harry and Meghan that filled the front page were unlike anything she had seen during her 40 years of service to the British royal family. As former private secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth II, Catherine had witnessed countless royal relationships, but none had captured her attention quite like the transformation evident in these latest images of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The photographs showed a couple who appeared genuinely content, their body language speaking of a comfort and intimacy that seemed to have deepened since their departure from royal duties. Catherine remembered the early days of Harry and Meghan's relationship, when she had been tasked with helping the American actress navigate the complex protocols and expectations of royal life. The contrast between that uncertain young woman and the confident, radiant person in these photographs was striking. Catherine's phone began ringing almost immediately after the newspapers were delivered. Journalists wanted her perspective on the images, royal biographers sought her insight into what the photographs revealed about the couple's current state, and former colleagues from Buckingham Palace were eager to discuss the implications of what appeared to be Harry and Meghan's successful American reinvention. The first call came from Margaret Thornberry, who had served as Meghan's personal assistant during her brief time as a working royal. Margaret had remained in touch with several members of the Sussex staff who had relocated to California, and she had been following their adaptation to life outside the royal system with genuine concern for their well-being. "Catherine, have you seen the photographs?" Margaret asked without preamble. "They look absolutely radiant. I haven't seen Harry this relaxed since he was a teenager, before all the pressure really began to weigh on him. And Meghan looks like she's finally found where she belongs." Catherine had indeed noticed the change in Harry's demeanor. Throughout his 20s and early 30s, she had watched him struggle with the weight of royal expectations while simultaneously trying to honor his mother's legacy and create his own meaningful role within the institution. The young man in these latest photographs appeared to have found a way to maintain his commitment to public service while escaping the constraints that had clearly been limiting his happiness. The conversation with Margaret brought back memories of the challenges Meghan had faced during her time as a working royal. Catherine had been struck by the American actress's genuine desire to make a positive impact, but she had also witnessed firsthand how difficult it was for someone with Meghan's independent spirit to adapt to the rigid protocols and unwritten rules that govern royal life. The tension between Meghan's natural instincts and royal expectations had been a source of ongoing stress for everyone involved. The photographs suggested that distance from the royal system had allowed both Harry and Meghan to rediscover aspects of themselves that had been suppressed or complicated by their previous roles. The Harry captured in these images showed traces of the playful, socially conscious young man who had charmed the public with his military service and charitable work before the weight of royal duties had begun to take its toll. Catherine's next call came from Sir Richard Blackwood, former equerry to Prince Charles, now King Charles III. Richard had been particularly close to Harry during the tumultuous period following Princess Diana's death, and he had watched with concern as the prince struggled to find his place within the royal family while dealing with unresolved grief and trauma. "The boy looks happy, Catherine," Sir Richard said, his voice carrying a mixture of relief and sadness. "Truly happy, perhaps for the first time since his mother died. I know there are some who feel betrayed by his decision to leave, but looking at these photographs, I can't help but feel that he's found what he needed." The conversation with Sir Richard touched on one of the most complex aspects of Harry and Meghan's story, the tension between personal happiness and institutional loyalty. Both had clearly struggled with their decision to step back from royal duties, understanding that it would disappoint some members of their family and the British public. But the joy evident in these new photographs suggested that they had made the right choice for their own well-being and that of their children. Catherine remembered the final months before Harry and Meghan's departure announcement, when palace staff had worked frantically to find solutions that might allow the couple to continue their royal duties while addressing their concerns about media intrusion and lack of autonomy. The failure to find a workable compromise had been disappointing for everyone involved, but these photographs suggested that time had proven the couple's decision to be wise. The telephone continued ringing throughout the morning, with calls from royal correspondents, former palace staff, and even some members of the extended royal family who wanted to discuss the implications of the images. The general consensus was that Harry and Meghan appeared to have successfully created the life they had been seeking when they made the difficult decision to leave their royal roles behind. Lady Diana Spencer's former lady-in-waiting, and Beckwith Smith, called to share her perspective on the photographs. She had known Harry since he was a small boy and had maintained a maternal interest in his well-being throughout his adult struggles. Diana would be so proud, and said, her voice thick with emotion. She always wanted her boys to be happy above all else. She would have understood exactly why Harry needed to make this choice. The reference to Princess Diana brought another dimension to Catherine's analysis of the photographs. Harry had often spoken about his desire to continue his mother's work while also protecting his own family from the intense scrutiny that had made Diana's life so difficult. The images suggested that he had found a way to honor both commitments, maintaining his charitable work while creating a more private family life for his wife and children. Catherine's own relationship with the Sussex couple had been complex but ultimately affectionate. She had been impressed by their genuine commitment to their charitable work and their desire to use their platform for positive change. At the same time, she had been concerned about their apparent unhappiness with certain aspects of royal life and their struggle to find a sustainable balance between public duty and personal fulfillment. The afternoon brought a call from James Harrison, who had served as Harry's private secretary during some of his most challenging years as a working royal. James had been one of the staff members who had worked most closely with the couple during their final months in the UK, and he had maintained contact with them during their transition to American life. The transformation is remarkable, James told Catherine. When I visited them in California last year, I could see they were still adjusting, still uncertain about some aspects of their new life. But these photographs show a couple who have clearly found their footing. They look like they've discovered how to be themselves again. The conversation with James revealed details about the Sussex couple's adaptation process that hadn't been widely reported. The transition from royal life to independence had required them to develop entirely new skills, from managing their own security arrangements to building a media and production company from scratch. The learning curve had been steep, but the photographs suggested that they had not only mastered these challenges but were thriving in their new roles. Catherine also spoke with several royal correspondents who had covered Harry and Meghan's story from the beginning. The consensus among these journalists was that the photographs represented a significant moment in the ongoing narrative of the Sussex couple's post-royal life. After years of speculation about their happiness and stability, these images provided clear visual evidence of their successful adaptation to their new circumstances. The photographs also sparked discussions about the broader implications for the modern monarchy. Harry and Meghan's apparent success in creating fulfilling lives outside the royal system raised questions about the flexibility and relevance of traditional royal roles. Some commentators suggested that their example might inspire other working royals to seek greater autonomy, while others argued that their unique circumstances made them poor models for institutional change. As the day progressed, Catherine found herself reflecting on the broader themes revealed by the photographs. The images told a story about the possibility of personal reinvention, the importance of prioritizing mental health and family well-being, and the potential for finding purpose and happiness even after experiencing significant loss and disappointment. The Sussex couple's journey from working royals to independent public figures had been closely watched by millions of people around the world, many of whom were dealing with their own challenges related to career changes, family obligations, and the search for authentic happiness. The photographs offered hope that it was possible to make difficult but necessary changes and emerge stronger and more fulfilled. Catherine's final call of the day came from her former colleague Patricia Williams, who had worked closely with both Harry and Meghan during their engagement period and early marriage. Patricia had been optimistic about their potential as working royals, believing that Meghan's American perspective and professional experience could bring valuable fresh energy to the institution. "I'm happy for them," Patricia said, "even though I'm sad about what might have been. They clearly needed something that royal life couldn't provide, and it looks like they've found it. The question now is whether the institution can learn from their experience and become more adaptable for future generations." As Catherine prepared for bed that evening, she found herself returning again and again to the photographs in the morning paper. The images captured more than just a moment in time, they documented a successful transformation that many had doubted was possible. The Harry and Meghan in these photographs had clearly learned how to balance their public mission with private happiness, their individual needs with their partnership, and their past experiences with their future aspirations. For someone who had dedicated her career to supporting the royal family, Catherine felt a complex mixture of sadness and satisfaction. The photographs confirmed that Harry and Meghan had been right to prioritize their own well-being, even if it meant disappointing some people who had hoped they would find a way to remain within the royal system. Their happiness was evident, and their continued commitment to charitable work suggested that they had found a way to serve the greater good while also serving their own needs. The images that had dominated the news cycle represented more than just successful publicity for a streaming service partnership. They provided visual confirmation that sometimes the most difficult decisions could lead to the most rewarding outcomes, and that love and determination could overcome even the most challenging circumstances. The golden hour light filtered through the windows of their Montecito home as Harry and Meghan sat together on their living room sofa, tablets and phones spread across the coffee table, displaying the photographs that had captured the world's attention. The images showed them as they rarely allowed themselves to be seen, completely natural, genuinely happy, and deeply connected. For the first time in years, they were reading about themselves without feeling the familiar tightness in their stomachs that had accompanied media coverage for so long. Harry reached over to take Meghan's hand as she scrolled through the overwhelmingly positive responses to the Netflix announcement. The comments from people around the world were filled with genuine warmth and support, congratulating them on their apparent happiness and expressing excitement about their upcoming projects. After years of reading criticism, speculation, and often cruel commentary about their relationship and decisions, this outpouring of positivity felt almost surreal. "Do you remember when we used to be afraid to hold hands in public?" Meghan asked softly, her thumb tracing gentle circles on Harry's palm. "When every gesture was analyzed and criticized, and we felt like we had to perform being a couple rather than just being ourselves?" Harry nodded, remembering those difficult months when they had been working royals, when their natural affection for each other had to be carefully measured and controlled to fit royal protocol. The spontaneous kisses, playful touches, and intimate conversations that came naturally to them had been deemed inappropriate for public consumption. They had learned to love each other within the constraints of an institution that seemed designed to suppress the very authenticity that made their relationship special. The photographs now spread across social media and news websites around the world showed them as they truly were, partners in every sense of the word, supporters of each other's dreams, and deeply committed to building a life together that honored both their individual identities and their shared values. The beach images that had captured their playful interaction with their children revealed parents who were present, engaged, and genuinely enjoying their family time without the weight of royal obligations constantly pulling them in different directions. Meghan picked up one of the tablets and showed Harry a particularly moving response from a young woman who had written about how seeing their happiness had given her hope during her own difficult relationship struggles. The message was one of hundreds they had received from people who saw their story as proof that it was possible to choose love and authenticity over external expectations and societal pressure. The journey to this moment of peace and contentment had been longer and more challenging than either of them had anticipated when they first made the decision to step back from royal duties. The early months in California had been filled with uncertainty, legal battles, and the constant stress of building a new life while under intense scrutiny from both supporters and critics. Harry remembered the sleepless nights when he had questioned whether they had made the right choice, whether the price they were paying for their independence was worth the freedom they had gained. The attacks on Meghan in particular had been brutal, often tinged with racism and misogyny that made him feel helpless and furious. During those dark moments, he had wondered if he had failed to protect his family in the way he had promised. But Meghan had been his anchor during those difficult times, her strength and resilience helping him understand that they were not running away from their responsibilities but running toward a life that would allow them to fulfill their true purpose. Her background as an actress and activist had prepared her for reinvention in ways that his royal upbringing had not, and she had gently guided him through the process of discovering who he could be outside the constraints of his birth circumstances. The Netflix partnership had been a crucial turning point in their journey toward independence and fulfillment. Initially, both had been nervous about entering the entertainment industry, uncertain about whether they could create content that would meet their own standards for meaningful impact while also satisfying commercial expectations. The learning curve had been steep, requiring them to develop new skills while maintaining their commitment to social justice and humanitarian causes. But, as the months had passed, they had discovered that their shared values actually enhanced their creative collaboration. Harry's authentic connection with veterans and young people, combined with Meghan's media savvy and storytelling instincts, had created a powerful partnership that translated beautifully to documentary filmmaking and content creation. Their upcoming series about mental health, environmental conservation, and social justice reflected not just their professional interests but their personal passions. The photographs that had sparked such positive global response had been taken during a period when they were putting the finishing touches on their most ambitious project yet, a documentary series that would follow families around the world as they worked to overcome various challenges and create positive change in their communities. The project had required extensive travel, challenging filming conditions, and deep emotional engagement with their subjects. Throughout the production process, Harry and Meghan had been struck by the parallels between their own journey and the stories of the families they were documenting. Like them, these families had faced situations where they needed to choose between maintaining the status quo and taking risks to pursue their authentic values and dreams. The courage and resilience they had witnessed had reinforced their own belief that their decision to leave royal life had been not just personally necessary but potentially inspiring to others facing similar crossroads. As they continued reading through the responses to their photographs, Meghan reflected on how much their relationship had deepened through the challenges they had faced together. The pressure cooker environment of their final months as working royals had revealed aspects of their partnership that might have remained untested in easier circumstances. They had learned to communicate more directly, support each other more effectively, and make decisions as a true team rather than as individuals trying to coordinate their separate roles. The children had been another catalyst for their growth as a couple. Archie and Lilibet had arrived during periods of intense transition and uncertainty, but rather than adding stress to their relationship, parenthood had clarified their priorities and strengthened their commitment to creating a stable, loving family environment. The photographs showed them as parents who were fully present with their children, able to offer the kind of attention and engagement that had been difficult to maintain while juggling royal obligations. Harry stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the California landscape that had become their sanctuary. The privacy and space they enjoyed in Montecito would have been impossible to achieve in the UK, where their every movement was monitored and reported. Here, they could take family walks, have friends over for dinner, and simply exist without constantly performing their public roles. The irony was not lost on them that their departure from the royal family had actually enhanced their ability to fulfill what they saw as the true purpose of public service. Without the constraints of royal protocol and the burden of representing an institution with which they had fundamental disagreements, they were free to advocate for causes they cared about and work with organizations that aligned with their values. The upcoming Netflix projects represented just the beginning of what they hoped would be a long career of meaningful content creation. They had already begun developing ideas for future documentaries about education inequality, climate change, and the experiences of military families. Each project would allow them to combine their platform with their passion for social justice, creating content that entertained while also inspiring action and awareness. Meghan joined Harry at the window, slipping her arm around his waist as they watched their children playing in the garden with their grandmother, Doria, who had become an essential part of their California support system. The multi-generational household they had created reflected their commitment to maintaining strong family connections while building their new life. The photographs that had dominated the news cycle that day captured more than just a moment in time. They documented a successful transformation that many had doubted was possible. The Harry and Meghan in these images had clearly learned how to balance their public mission with private happiness, their individual needs with their partnership, and their past experiences with their future aspirations. As the sun began to set over the Pacific Ocean, visible in the distance from their home, Harry and Meghan felt a sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought them to this place of peace and possibility. The road had been difficult, marked by loss, criticism, and moments of profound uncertainty. But it had also been a path toward authentic happiness and the kind of love that could withstand any external pressure or challenge. The photographs that would continue circulating around the world told a story that went far beyond celebrity culture or royal intrigue. They documented the possibility of reinvention, the power of choosing love over fear, and the rewards that could come from having the courage to pursue an authentic life even when it required disappointing others or facing criticism. That evening, as they put their children to bed and settled in for a quiet night together, Harry and Meghan knew that they had found what they had been searching for throughout their tumultuous journey. The photographs had captured something real and lasting, a love that had not just survived extraordinary challenges but had been strengthened by them, and a partnership that promised to continue evolving and deepening as they built their future together. The world had watched their love story unfold in real time, from fairy tale beginning to dramatic crisis to this moment of renewed hope and happiness. The photographs that would be remembered as a turning point in public perception showed two people who had chosen each other not just once, at their wedding, but again and again through every challenge they had faced. In a world often cynical about celebrity relationships and royal promises, their genuine connection offered something rare and precious, proof that true love could not only survive but thrive, even under the most intense scrutiny and pressure imaginable.